Welcome back. We are going to discuss the context of moral behavior. As I have said many times, moral behavior or just anything in regards to child development does not occur in a vacuum. There's always context. It can happen. Development occurs at school, at home, in the park, at the grocery store. It happens all the time. And so we're going to look at some of the context of moral development. The first context of moral development is parenting. When we talk about parenting, we're looking at not only the role of parents, but also the relationship with parents and children. And what is an important role in the context of moral development is secure attachment. Not only is secure attachment something that is important for moral development, but also the type of techniques that you use to discipline a child. So there are three types of discipline techniques that parents can use to parent their children. The first is the love withdrawal discipline technique. And that is where you withhold something from a child. It can be attention, it can be love. And for example, you may refuse to talk to a child. That will be a type of love withdrawal. There's also a discipline technique entitled power assertion. And so that is where parents try to gain control over the child or their resources. So you can take away their iPad for a week. That would be power assertion. Or you can engage in spanking. That would also be an example of power assertion. The last discipline technique is what child developmentalists actually recommend for parents, how parents should discipline their children, and that's called induction. This is when parents actually sit down, have a conversation with their children and explain why their actions are unacceptable and how their actions affect other people. This is the best context according to child developmentalists where moral development can really, the development of moral development can really flourish. Not only can children develop morally and at home, but they can also develop morally at school. And one of the ways that they can develop morally at school is through service learning. And so service learning is another word can be community service, but it takes it a step further. Not only are children or adolescents providing a service to the community, but they also are giving a social responsibility. They are not only volunteering, but they also may have a class that talks about the importance of providing for the community, and they may have a class that talks about how they themselves have a social responsibility to not only worry or think about themselves or their own family, but also that they are responsible for the community around them and making sure that it's a better place. And so the goal, a lot of for service learning, a lot of adolescents do that. And what happens is that adolescents actually become less self-centered and are usually more strongly motivated to help others. But what's important about service learning is that when they are providing this service to the community, it must be voluntary in order for the service learning to have lasting effects. So instead of making this service learning class a part of the required curriculum, it could be an elective, and that would more than likely have a lasting effect on the adolescents compared to if the adolescents were required to take this service learning course and provide a service to the community. So we've looked at the context of moral development. There are certain behaviors that are associated and not associated with moral development. So pro-social behavior, we got into a little bit with empathy, but there's also antisocial behavior, and antisocial behavior, it plays a huge role in moral development and the lack of moral development. So we're going to first look at pro-social behavior, and the first type of pro-social behavior is altruism. This is where you want to help others. You voluntarily want to help others, and you don't do it for any selfish gain. You don't do it so that that person can help you in the future. You do it because you just want to help that person. Another type of pro-social behavior is sharing, and sharing would be a type of altruism. And research actually indicates that initially, sharing is done for non-empathetic reasons. But as children get older, around the age of 4, they start to have this empathetic awareness, and they start to share because they feel like they are helping other people. Two other pro-social behaviors that are often overlooked are forgiveness and gratitude. It's a lot of people are now using gratitude journals, where they just take time every night to write what they are thankful for or what they are appreciative of. And engaging in gratitude journals and engaging in gratitude behavior has been linked to a lot of positive outcomes for adolescents and adults. One of those positive outcomes is fewer depressive symptoms. So, if it's important even now, as you are at home during the pandemic, to, engage in gratitude. But not only that, if you plan to be a social worker, a psychiatrist, psychologist, a teacher, you want to make sure that you are encouraging students to also take time to show gratitude, because that also helps them to develop morally. Of course, if we have social behavior, pro-social behavior, we have to have antisocial behavior. And a type of actually disorder that is in the DSM-5, that is the conduct disorder, and that is an example of antisocial behavior. So this is where children are usually diagnosed with conduct disorder, and this is where children know what is inappropriate, but they may do it anyway. So, for example, they may swear, they may have temper tantrums, they may steal, they may assault other students or other family members. They also may vandalize. All of this would be an example of conduct disorder. Anyone that has conduct problems, children that have conduct problems, they consistently violate the rules. Another type of antisocial behavior is what in your book they call juvenile delinquency. So these are, again, the types of behaviors that we talked about in regards to conduct disorder, but it takes it a step further, where this behavior is now breaking the law. And juvenile delinquency is actually put into two different types of offenses. The first is index offenses. And so that would be robbery, homicide. These are actual criminal acts that can be committed by either juveniles, when I say juveniles, anyone under 18, or adults 18 and over. There are also status offenses, and that is where these juvenile offenses occur, obviously, when children or adolescents are juveniles, but they're not as serious. So truancy or underage drinking will be status offenses. In regards to juvenile delinquency, males are actually more likely to engage in delinquency than are females. And around the age of 18 years of age, this physical aggression, theft, property damage, this behavior actually peaks. It peaks, and then after that, it consistently goes down. And the peak for violence is also around the age of 18 for males and around the age of 19 to 21 for females. There is also early onset antisocial behavior that is associated with more negative developmental outcomes than later onset. And so, again, when we talk about antisocial behavior, people that engage in antisocial behavior also or usually lack perspective taking. They're not able to put themselves in the shoes of other people and think about the consequences um, and how their behaviors will affect other people who they are harming. So they have this lack of perspective taking. That is very important to know and to understand. That's why it's very important to uh, provide children opportunities where they're able to have this perspective taking, provide them with not only that with their peers, but at home as well, and being able to reason with them and explain how their actions influence other people. That's going to help with going against antisocial behavior. Okay, in the next slideshow, we're going to talk about religion and talk about the religious and spiritual development. I'll see you all on the next slideshow.